What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Conversation Station. This episode, we're going to be discussing the government's decision to take soda, candy, and sugary food items off the SNAP benefits list. Now, this has been a controversial decision by the government. People have been extremely split on this, so I thought we'd just take an episode out and talk about it a little bit, pros and cons, and just get people's opinions. Now, I'll start this off by being honest. I used food stamps as a teen. My mom was on food stamps when I was a kid, and I used food stamps when I was in my early 20s for maybe about a year and a half. But I worked the entire time, and my girlfriend who lived with me worked the entire time as well, and we just used it to get groceries and make sure our money came out good on the end of the month, and all the bills were able to be paid, and all the extras that we needed were got. So I've been on the receiving end of food stamps, so definitely understand how, they are a necessity and they are a tool to be used by people who need them in the time that's needed. I haven't needed them since, and I never plan on signing up for them again, just because I'm, working harder and making sure that everything stays up to date and how it's supposed to be. But that's, you never know what struggles a family might come into. Anything could happen, and you may need some extra money to support each month, and that's what the food stamps are there for, to help people out in times when they just really need it. When, like I said, bringing home that paycheck just doesn't really bring everything home that you need. So that's what food stamps is there to supplement. So this decision to take away the sugary drinks and the snacks, it makes sense, and I really understand how a lot of people on the side of having never had food stamps, but obviously been footing the bill, being taxpayers and things like that, I would understand why they would be happy that things like this would be taken away from people. Just because, again, you're footing the bill for something that doesn't seem necessary through a service that definitely is necessary. So it's been an idea that's been toyed with for forever. I've heard it since I was a teenager on food stamps that, they should get rid of candy and things like that. Energy drinks have forever been off the list of things you can get with food stamps. One of the issues that I am worrying about arising with this change is that I'm not sure that people that have food stamps will necessarily pay attention to the change. So like me, I'm a retail worker. Every now and again I have to be on register. And I'm just worried that people who pay with food stamps won't know that soda and candy and certain sugary items, or exactly which sugary items are being taken off the list, and they're going to get to the register, attempt to pay, and they're going to get mad at me and pretend that I'm not letting them get it, even though it's going to be on a list, or it's going to say on my screen that they're not allowed to get it. And it's just for, there's basically going to be a learning curve. There's just a lot of people that don't pay attention, a lot of people that don't pay attention to the news, and people that think the stuff that they hear is just kind of fake or not really real or relevant to their life. This is one of those things that will become real and relevant to people's lives, and it will affect it in the moment, like I said, when they go to pay for it at that checkout counter, and it's going to hold up lines, and it's going to make people mad, and it's going to cause frustration. And how much of that curve is going to, how long it's going to take is definitely, there's some people who just don't learn. And this is also, people think that this can, stave off any kind of fraud and things like that, which they've obviously been going after for a while. But people still find ways around that. They dump water bottles out to get the money, to do recycling. And obviously they're not banning water from food stamps because that would be ridiculous. So there is always going to be negative drawbacks and things that you just kind of can't really stop unless, the agency decides to look into it and stop it. But this just seems like a really good decision, and it just seems like something that's definitely going to be positive, even though it's not going to be perceived that way in the beginning. But there's another side to this too, and that's the American's right to choose. If you're given money from the government, $300-400, whether it's from taxpayers or whatnot, you should be able to, as an adult, as an American, as presumably a taxpayer, at some point in time, be able to make your own decision, provide for your family in the way that you see fit. But I also understand the argument that why would you need candy? Why would you need soda to provide for your family? In what way does that constitute a need versus a want, versus a luxury? And soda definitely was a luxury, and I can tell you now, I've spent my fair share on soda, and I will say it is absolutely a luxury. It's terrible for you. I drink soda, and I do not let my kids drink it. I tell them the reason I don't let them drink it is because it's terrible for them. I've cut back. I used to, in my teenage years, I've drank a lot of soda. And I just cut way back. Just because I know how bad it is, and I know over time it will make me feel a lot worse if I continue the same trend of drinking a ridiculous amount of soda and acting like nothing's going to happen. So I've shrank down my consumption a lot just in getting older. And I know eventually I'll be able to not drink any at all, just because if I want to stay healthy and not have my organs shut down on me, I'm probably going to have to stop drinking soda at some point, or at least drink a very lot less of it, even more so than I do now. So I don't let my kids have soda. Of course, I let them have candy at Halloween, Christmas, and stuff like that. I do not buy them candy all throughout the year, all the time, whenever they ask for it. I just don't. They don't really care. My kids drink a ton of water. So like soda and juice aren't really too much of an issue. My kids go through water like they're going to run out. We just keep cases constantly. And it's something I'm extremely thankful for. It's, they've just picked up the habit rather than asking for a juice. And they definitely know not to ask for any soda just because they won't get it. They'll go for a water, and they'll get the water, put their, letter on it. And that's, they don't even give it a second thought, really. And even with meals and things like that, like we'll give them juice. And they're like, oh, we got juice in the fridge. And they're like, oh, cool. And they'll grab that over their water. But more often than not, they won't ask for juice. They'll just kind of go grab a water. They'll grab dinner, grab water, and go off and eat. And I'm just really happy that habit's picked up. And, I know you can see me as like a hypocrite because I do drink soda. My girlfriend, their mom, doesn't drink a lot of soda. She drinks a soda maybe like once a month with a meal just because, she feels like it. She was also raised like that too. Didn't have that much soda, didn't drink it that often, so she just doesn't have that much craving for it. So that's what I'm hoping to do with my kids as well. It's like you won't really have that craving for it. You won't want to drink it all the time if you kind of grew up not drinking it all the time, is my hope. Whether that'll work out or not, everybody changes. That's just what we're going for now. But I say that to say I understand how unhealthy soda is, why it would be seen as a luxury versus a necessity on something like this. But at the end of the day, the Americans' right to choose what's right for their family is just, it's important. And if, as Americans, if we're going to sit here and, spout off about freedom, 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 we can't sit there restricting because it's kind of a slippery slope. You can say, yes, candy and soda for now. But what really, how broad is the spectrum? Basically how many things are really going to get taken off that list? And are we going to be updated every single time something's, added or, taken away from the list? So it's just a matter of, like I said, learning curve, people figuring out what's good, what's not. And if this isn't meant to be as a way to like deter people away from using food stamps, I mean, maybe that could be a good thing. Obviously, they want more people out in the workforce. Not to say that people aren't working on food stamps, but there are people out there that aren't. So that's always been the taxpayers' argument, is that, people on welfare and food stamps need to get back to work. And as a person that's been on food stamps and worked at the same time, I just know that stigma isn't always true. Like I said, every time I was on food stamps, I worked the entire time. I was never not working. So, there are people out there, me, who's used it to the advantages that it is. But there are also people who take advantage of it. So it's definitely an interesting topic. It's understandable how it's so split down the middle. Because on one hand, it's common sense. Junk food shouldn't be a necessity or seen as a necessity. On the other hand, an American's right to choose and to say what's right for their family is always going to be important to every American. It should be. Would like to know any thoughts or comments you have on this. I really appreciate any time you spent watching my video. Thank you, and I hope to see you again.